What's up, y'all? We got another video. Go be equal. Anti-feminist clashes with journalists over women's rights. Subscribe, turn on post notifications. Let's get it. Let's go. Let's throw our opinion. All right, let's go.
Pearl Davis has racked up a legion of online followers and plenty of breathless newspaper coverage by sharing her incendiary views on modern feminism. The New York Post called her the female Andrew Tate, so she tapped into genuine female pushback to the excesses of wokery, or is she just an attention seeker? We'll find out in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the clip that sent her viral.
A lot of people think I'm insane because I don't think women should vote. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for this opinion. If anything, this is probably my most extreme opinion. 90% of women have been on birth control. 1 out of 3 women has had one out of 3 women has an STD. Average body count is over 5, so that your average wife has slept with over 5 people. 95% of women are not virgins on their wedding days. So I understand the complaint.
Okay, all Pearl joined.
Comment down below what you think of everything that she just said. I know she about to send women on a tizzy. Whoa, because it's because you know it's weird. Like a lot of times when you want to like get a message across, you grab that group. Like if you want to get a message across to black people, you grab black people to speak to black people. You want to grab a message to women, you grab a woman to speak to women. You want to grab a message to men, you grab a man to speak to men. It's all pandering, you know. Like that's what she's doing, of course, but. Pearl, I've heard that name before. Pearl, I've actually never watched anything on her though, but I've heard that name before.
Jo's been alongside political journalist Ava Sanctity, who was nodding furiously along there to everything she heard. Right, Pearl, you've been called the female Andrew Tate. How do you plead?
Well, I take it as a compliment. You know, I'm a fan of Andrew Tate.
Of everything he says?
It depends what we're talking about, but overall I think he's got a good message. I think he's good for young men.
Okay, look, you're talking about women predominantly, which is why you've got this big following. And your view is that modern feminism is deeply flawed. I would argue a lot of your proposals, like taking the vote away from women, are deeply regressive. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to remove, just from yourself, the right to vote?
Well, what happened was I had the same view, right? Back when I started, I was like, why? I found out that only 5% of women wanted the right to vote. And I couldn't figure out, like, why would women not? No, it's true. It's true. If you look it up.
At the time.
At the time.
Because they've been conditioned by men to think that they shouldn't have a vote.
I mean, that's what they say. But, you know, I started reading their writings, right? And what I found out was that the reason a lot of women advocated for it was because they believed it was the beginning of the breakdown of the family. You know, before you became one in marriage, 85% of people were married. And, you know, I hate to say it, but they were right. What has happened 100 years later?
What's that got to do with them having the vote?
Well, it also goes back to responsibility. Again, men are 80 to 90% of the military. They run all of the infrastructures that make society run. So I just think if we want an equal say in society, then be equal. Do 50% of the hard jobs. Be 50% of the military. In the U.S., they're fined $250,000 if they don't join selective service, which is essentially the draft.
Okay, but specifically on the vote, what would having the right to vote have to do with family cohesion, for example?
Well, because again, before you weren't trying to divide a family. It was one family unit. You had one vote for the family. I mean, I don't think it's good for a family to have 2 votes.
Ava, your mouth.
I think she's saying some crazy shit right now, but hey, you know, whatever. I think that no, women should definitely have a vote. One household making a vote like limits a lot of stuff going on, and yeah, wow, interesting.
Seems to have dropped about.
No, do you know what
I know.
It's just sort of a bit galaxy brain. I feel like, you know, the stats that you're putting down are perhaps correct in some universe.
Which stats?
They just kind of don't really add up. I mean, just to take you back to the to the women's writings that you've allegedly read. I mean,
allegedly. What do you mean allegedly?
At the time that you're talking about, you know, women weren't really allowed to write. They weren't allowed to go to school.
Yes, they were.
Yes,
they were. That's incorrect. The first female property owner was in the 1600s. The idea that women couldn't work and couldn't.
I'm so sorry, but that would be inherited property.
The first female millionaire was in the late 1800s.
And was that inherited?
No, it wasn't. It was self-made. She was. No, yes.
Hold up, y'all. My fucking leg cramping. They arguing over a billionaire. Okay. It's good now. My legs start cramping. Woo! All right, so they're arguing over a female billionaire. Let's go.
It was.
Made.
Yes, it
and
was.
She never
She was
inherited
just,
that.
yes, but she did not
and what
inherit
law
it.
permitted that?
What?
What law permitted that?
Well, there was no law. I mean, there's always been women that were
anyway.
influential in
let's
history.
let's get on to the vote. So what I don't understand is, a part of your message, I've researched you today, and hang on a minute.
Okay.
Your big push is that you care about men, and you don't think that men are getting enough of a say. But
I care about
hang
women
on,
too.
I haven't
Care
made
about
the
women
point
too,
yet. Because of feminism, okay? What I wonder is when you start making calls out like repeal the 19th, women shouldn't be allowed to vote. How is that helping young men? Because these young men have women in their lives, they have mothers, they have sisters, they have teachers, and they turn around, they don't know how to act around women because you're giving them license to be misogynistic.
I wouldn't call it misogynistic. I say be equal. So again, men do all of that. Well, then, okay, I'd love for the feminists, please apply for the oil rigs. Please go do the hard jobs in society. They're open.
She said, I love the feminists to please apply for the oil rigs. That okay. I ain't gonna lie, she's interesting. That's a good point. Like, women don't go for the jobs that are the hardest in society. They go for well, no, you can't say that either. Hands-on jobs, I guess. I don't know. I actually don't know. I gotta look up them statistics. I heard more women are actually going into STEM fields, but I could be totally wrong about that. Yeah, but the oil rigs, nah, that's a man. That's somewhat of a man's job. You know what's funny? Like even the field I'm in, like there's not bathrooms for women because most women don't go into that field. But now that women are starting to go into the field, it's actually where operations managers are starting having to open bathrooms for them. It's actually interesting. But let's keep going.
Hiring, because I don't think men or women are equal until we do the equal work. So no, listen. Go apply to be on the oil rigs. Go be a plumber. Go be an electrician. Go be on the front lines of the military, and then we should have equal rights. But until feminists are willing to do that, I don't believe we should have the freedom without the responsibility.
Okay, well, I don't think that I'm physically built for that. You might be, but I'm absolutely not. You said you were a volleyball.
Wow.
You said you were a volleyball player, and so you've got more strength than I do. I don't think.
But
that
I don't have more strength than the average man. I'm going to take your rights away. I don't have more strength than the average man. But again, it goes back to go be a plumber. You want to be equal, go be equal.
You want divorce to be made illegal.
Yes.
Why?
Yes, because I don't think what we have today is really marriage. What is marriage? It's for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. That's what marriage is supposed to be. But feminists have ruined marriage for the people that actually believe in marriage.
How?
When there is a 50% divorce rate, and the average marriage is 8 years.
Why is that all down to the women, though?
I didn't say that it was all down to the women.
Why
you asked why I want divorce to be banned.
Yeah.
Can I finish that first? So I'm saying, the people that believe in divorce, go be in long-term relationships. Leave marriage for the people that actually believe in for better or for worse, for richer or for poor, in sickness and in health, till death do us part.
But doesn't the sanctity of marriage also rely on the woman being a virgin? So you wouldn't be able to get married.
Wow. She just killed everything. The sanctity of marriage relies on the woman and the man actually being a virgin. To get married, technically, you have to be a virgin. That's according to what marriage marriage is scripted from is the Bible. And in order to do that, you have to be a virgin. What made you married or committed to a woman was having sex with that woman. It was never a contract by the government. Like, interesting enough.
What do you mean?
Well, you've spoken quite openly about how you're not a virgin, and so if you want to preserve that sanctity of marriage, I just think that you're upholding standards that you don't actually live by.
And that's a fair complaint. I wish I was. But, we can't go back. I don't know what you want me to say.
Yeah, but I just don't think it's fair that you get to be here and you get to be paid for your views, and you're telling other women that they shouldn't be allowed to.
I think...
Hang on. Okay, if I may, at some stage jump in. Isn't the whole point of being a feminist, though, that women are entitled to have their own views?
Absolutely.
So she's perfectly entitled to her views.
Yeah, but you can't...
You might not like them.
But I'm here to challenge
Isn't she exercising her rights as a... Are you a feminist?
No, I am not.
Really?
No, don't go that far.
You don't want to be a feminist?
No, because I think if feminists really believed in equality, but you guys don't, I would love for you. There is an oil rig hiring. There is an engineering
I would actually love to see Ava Santana on an oil rig.
Seriously. There is a building being built next to my building. Go do it, feminists. Go do it. And me, I'm
doing the same job that I'm doing right now.
When you find a man you want to get married to, are you saying you will be with that man whatever happens the rest of your life?
Yes, for the vows that we're supposed to live by.
How do you know you can keep them?
I mean, I think it's a choice. And that's the thing, like, women are so willing to leave marriages because they're not happy. This is not about happiness. The most important thing is the children. And the problem is we have a modern society where it's me, my feelings, leave when I feel like it, instead of doing what's best for the kids.
Hey, but I've got to say, it's a little bit listening to Andrew Tate where some of it I really don't agree with. I don't agree with the vote stuff. When I hear things like that, I think a lot of people.
Pierce said, "Hurry up, let that be known. I don't agree with the vote stuff, man, because them people are coming. They are coming. Everything Pearl is saying, they are coming."
The older generation women, perhaps, who think, you know what, she's got a point.
Well, I mean, I believe in agency, so I think that if a woman is going to look after her children with divorce, that's absolutely fine. I also believe in your right to speak your mind about it. What I don't understand,
I'd like to say, even before the 1920s,
do you know what I mean?
Women could speak openly. This idea that, like, women couldn't talk the last 500 years, there have been women throughout history.
The American state education system has failed before.
There have been women throughout history that have read, written, and been very influential in society.
Okay.
So this idea like women could never do it.
Do you know what I don't understand though is when it gets spiteful, okay? Because you put down a few arguments that I think are perfectly, like, they're kind of evangelical and they're Christian, but those are your right to say it. What I don't understand is when it kind of seeps into this sort of, you call women fat, you say that they shouldn't have abortions, you say that they have estrogens.
The question is, are they fat? Yes or no? The average American woman is 170 pounds. That's objectively overweight.
I mean, let's be honest. We now celebrate morbid obesity as some kind of body positive thing, and it is complete nonsense. So actually, on that point again, there's a bit of truth in
that. This is the problem.
How have we come to celebrate morbid obesity as body positive? It's nonsense.
We're not talking about morbid obesity. I was actually watching your podcast earlier, and you spoke to someone who was, I would say, probably a size 12, and you called her fat, obese, and a divorcee.
She was fat, obese, and a divorcee. I mean, I don't know what to say. This is the thing, women, we don't want to live in reality. We don't want to say things that are true. Was she fat? Yes. Was she a divorcee? Yes. These things are just objective facts.
Okay, I'm going to have to objectively...
And she insulted me first. They always do.
I'm going to have to objectively end the debate, but it was an interesting conversation. I think we should get you two back together as a matter of urgency. Thank you very much, Pearl. Thank you, Ava.
Pearl's entitled to whatever opinion that she wants to have. I definitely think she can have whatever opinion she wants to have, but she does have a point. You make vows, so like those vows should be stuck and by. But however, though, sometimes shit just don't work out. There's that scenario, but there is this too, like where Pearl was like, I'll say this, right? We do live in an era where it's like people cannot actually give an opinion about anything without people critiquing the opinion on anything. And I do think one of the most held up, I'm being fair right now, one of the most held up privileged classes when it comes to a personal opinion or a personal attack are women. Like, it's harder to attack women on certain topics because then you're seen as misogynistic. It's hard to critique what a woman is doing. Like, if she's fat, then she's fat. Then she doesn't need to go to the gym. Why can't you call a woman fat? Why can't you call a woman stupid? Why can't you call a woman, immature? Like, why can't you say those things? Like, why are those things considered misogynistic? And in reverse, are those things considered the same way when women talk that way about men? Because there are plenty of talk shows like The View. They had a whole section on The View where they were talking about how stupid and ignorant men are. If they can do it, why can't men? That's how I see it. But it is what it is. Pearl's entitled to whatever opinion she wants. The journalist is entitled to whatever opinion she wants. This was a great debate. I liked it. I'm gonna come back for these. I'm gonna do more Pearl reactions because it seems like she's pandering to men. But who ain't pandering? You know what I mean? To a degree, everybody's pandering to a degree when they got an audience. But yeah, anyways, I'm out. Peace.